Hi there friends, do you have any questions for us? This is usually how every interview ends. It doesn't matter if it's for a PhD position, for a postdoc or for a faculty job, it's always the last question in an interview. Many people find this question in the end, that is part of the interview, a bit tricky, and it partially is. So let me explain how you can best answer that question. So I think it's not good to ask no question, because it may signal that you're not engaged and not interested. I mean, if you really have no question left in the end, then maybe just make it clear that you had this and this point on your list, but it's already been covered. At the same time, don't do the opposite. Don't ask too many questions. I mean, this is the end of the interview. People have a schedule. There is not an expectation for you to rattle off a huge list of questions. And I've never been in an interview, and I've been in many, many interviews where that has been met sort of favorably if candidates come up with a huge list of questions. This is not the time for that, but you have any issues that you like to talk about and also that help you portray yourself in a positive light. This is the moment to ask these questions, but it's not the time to rattle off anything about this particular job or the position that you might want to ask. Basically, make this short and sweet. Don't ask too many things. The second point is, where this question is very often misunderstood in a way, is like, this is not the negotiation. This is the interview. The point of the interview for you, as the person being interviewed, is to get an offer. Once you have been made an offer, then a lot of points can come up in the subsequent negotiation. But the interview is not the negotiation. And the question where this is in greatest danger in a way to be confused with the negotiation is that exact question. So maybe if this is for a faculty job, don't ask, can I have a reduced teaching load in the beginning to help me get started? This is something for the negotiation part, right? What you could ask is, are there any current initiatives in the field of XYZ where my kind of expertise could be helpful in your department to move it forward? That sends off very positive signals because it shows you are interested and want to contribute to the place, for example. Now, if the opportunity arises, and if you of course can think of something, then it's very good to ask a question that makes clear that you have critically thought about this position and the role you could fill for the organization or for the lab that you're applying for. It shows that you are genuinely interested and that you have reflected on this position. This could be something like, for a faculty job, I have noticed that there's quite an emphasis on XYZ, which could be a method or a topic, and therefore would this be maybe an idea to design a joint undergraduate course on this topic? Or if you're applying as a postdoc for a lab, I have noticed you're working on such and such, and have you considered opportunity to collaborate with such and such a lab, because they're doing this and this could be really adding to your program. So these kinds of questions reflect well on you because they show that you have processed information, that you have analyzed what you've looked at, that you have prepared, of course, for the interview, and that you can put it all together and make a useful suggestion. Those are great questions to ask if you can come up with one. The next point, don't ask questions you could have easily answered by just Googling the place in preparation for the interview, right? I mean, don't ask like how many faculty are in your department. You could just Google that. And also, do you have a core facility? Well, if you went to the webpage, you would know they have a core facility. So I think those questions, they don't help you. If they're really important for you, Google them ahead of time, but don't ask them during the interview as like information gathering. Or if you apply as a PhD student or postdoc to a lab, don't ask what have you been recently working on and publishing. You could just come to the lab webpage and look at what they've been recently working on and publishing. So these kinds of questions just reveal that you haven't really prepared well for the job, and so better than asking them is not asking them. My advice is also to not ask anything and avoid topics that could be very tricky or that put the person interviewing you in a difficult situation. Or that are sort of negative, like I've heard that many faculty have quit from your department, or I've heard that graduate students leaving your program or something like this. I mean, if you have already decided during the interview that this job is not for you, this is fine. But then there is also no point in alienating people afterwards. We just smile, nod, move on. Of course, every job will have its drawback and critical points, and of course they are also very important to consider in your decision whether you would be accepting an offer. But the interview is for you to get an offer. So save these bits if they are really critical for you for the negotiation stage after you have been made an offer. Don't bring them up during the interview, because if you're bringing up something negative and controversial and challenging, this sort of is the aftertaste of your interview, because it comes at the very end, and that will certainly not be helping you. So I think this is quite important, and also if this is for a faculty interview, there may be many other situations during the on-site interview typically where you can ask this, like lunch with the grad students or like a more informal gathering. This would be the place to ask that, but not during this interview. So those are my points for that last question. I hope you find them helpful. And with that, thanks for watching. Good luck with your interview, and see you in the next video. Bye.